What if I told you using merge layer is a mistake? In this video, I'm going to dive into why this is a mistake and 8 other mistakes I've made as a beginner Procreate user. Some of these mistakes have been pointed out to me by you, the viewers, in the comments of my previous videos, so stick around to see if that's you or if you're making these mistakes yourself. So why is using merge layer a mistake? Well, it depends on the context, so let me explain. So this is my latest painting, and when I finish paintings, usually I like to do a final color adjustment over the entire thing, just to tweak the colors a bit. So here I feel like this is a little too blue, and I want to be able to bring out a bit more of the reds and yellows in the image. I also like to do a sharpen over the entire image as well, just to make things pop. But if I go up here to the layers panel, you can see there's just so many layers here, and it becomes an issue if I, for example, want to apply, let's say a color balance, and I want to turn this green. It's only applying to the current layer, which is this baby here. But I want it to apply to the entire image itself and not just the active layer. So naturally, coming from Photoshop, my first instinct was to flatten the image. But when I realized Procreate didn't have this, I was shocked, and naturally I felt a bit of regret, thinking, oh, I miss Photoshop. Photoshop is so much more professional, and this is just really dumb. But the truth is, I was the dummy, and in my last video, you can see me manually merging almost 100 layers to get to that final flat state. But 3 viewers in my last tips video kindly pointed me to the fact that we don't actually need to flatten the image. Instead, I can just go up here to the add menu and then select copy canvas. Then just paste in the canvas, and if we look in the layers panel, you can see here I've got a new layer that has been inserted that has my entire artwork flattened onto that layer. So technically, like, the document isn't flattened, you can see all my layers here, but I've been given a layer that has been flattened instead. And this allows me to achieve my goals, and I can do my color adjustments. So for example, I can adjust the greens and yellows, bring a bit more red in, without affecting all the layers beneath, without having to flatten or destroy my artwork. And yeah, it's just a much better way of doing things. So yeah, Procreate isn't dumb, just turns out I was. When I get an idea for a drawing, I always want to dive straight into a canvas. So I hit one of the presets and start. But there have been quite a few times where after hours of painting, I realized that this was a mistake as the resolution was too small. So make sure to set up your projects correctly before you start drawing. This seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many times I've been caught out by this, especially if we dive into the settings. So if we go up here to the plus sign, you can see there are a bunch of presets here, and at first glance you might think they're pretty great. There's nothing wrong with them, and you might just jump straight to, for example, the screen size preset and start doing your painting. But after hours of doing my painting, I was really disappointed to find out when I went up here to the wrench icon and then to canvas information, that the video settings these presets are on are set to only 1080p, which is a kind of low resolution, especially for someone like me that likes to have everything recorded in 4K and at the highest quality there is available. This was really disappointing. So to avoid this in future, I set up my own presets so I don't even have to think about this step. If you want to do the same, I've compiled all the info into a handy Procreate Canvas quick reference. It includes resolutions for many different formats, such as Instagram posts, Instagram stories, iPhone wallpapers, Facebook posts, and most common physical print sizes, such as postcard, letter, A4, and posters. It's a downloadable A4 PDF you can hang up in your room that will help you know exactly what size and settings you need for all kinds of projects. You can get it free by going to jaywalkerpictures.com, which, by the way, is a completely new website I've just launched. You can join the email community, buy wallpapers, or get my Essentials brush set. Check it out, and thank you for your support. Everyone knows to undo your work, double tap on the canvas. If you keep double tapping, Procreate will continue to undo. This can be done up to 250 times before running out of undo history. This is great, and it might give you some sense of security knowing that Procreate knows your last 250 actions, but the important thing to remember is once you leave the canvas and go back to the gallery or close the app, Procreate forgets this undo history and you're stuck with the artwork in whatever state it was in when you last left the canvas. And this has resulted in many artists losing hours of work and having to redo things because it's so simple to forget, jump out of the canvas to copy something, or even just switch between projects because you're working on multiple things. These next 3 are super simple, but will instantly improve your workflow. This is a shot from my last video, and here I am painting the canvas a blue sky color. And you might be wondering what's wrong with that, but stupidly, I could have just dragged the color from up here like this. Speaking of the color wheel, sometimes you just want a pure color like white. So if I go up here, usually I'll just try to eyeball it like by doing this. but sometimes you might end up with a slightly off color. Now the first thing you could do is use 2 fingers and expand the color wheel like that, so you have a bit more fine-grained control, and now you can see a bit better that white is probably closer to here. But it can still be imperfect. It took me a while, but I finally discovered that I can actually just double tap on the color wheel and it snaps selection to the closest pure color. So if I double tap here, it goes to gray. If I double tap here, it goes to pure white. You can think of this feature like a clock. So here I get a light blue, here I get another deeper blue, and then here I get a really dark blue. And then it keeps going around, for example, here to a really dark navy, and then finally to a pure black. When you start drawing, especially in the early stages, you might find yourself messing up and wanting to just start again. Now, stupidly in the past, I've spent time manually erasing like this, but you can actually just easily go up here to your layer and then tap on it and hit clear. If you like gestures, you can also use 3 fingers and just scrub the iPad like that. One magical thing about Procreate is how minimal yet feature-packed its UI is. This next interface tip was so subtle it blew my mind when it was pointed out by one of you guys. This is a slider, and Procreate's interface is packed with them, but you might find the slider very sensitive to movement, making it hard to hit the exact number you want. Thankfully, there's a solution to this pointed out by Jim. While holding the pencil on the screen, move the pen perpendicular from the slider and then move up and down to adjust the values. You'll notice the sensitivity will decrease the further from the slider you get. So here you can see it's super slippery, but here if I go here, if I want to move 1%, I need to move about 1 centimeter. But if I go all the way out here, just to move 1%, I need to move maybe 2 centimeters. Let's see how far I can go. Wow, see, the further I get away from the slider, as long as I keep it held down, it'll keep controlling that slider just with less sensitivity. And then of course, if I pull it all the way back in, you can see now I'm super sensitive and it's just really adjusting fast. This one is a super detailed mistake, and I feel a little dumb for having done this, and it has to do with one of the most basic things in any program: copying and pasting. My natural instinct when I copy and paste something is to actually create a new layer and then hit paste. So for example, if I want to copy this little dude on this layer here, I would go here and then do copy, and then I would create a new layer and then I would hit paste. And the reason why I do that is because I'm worried that whatever gets pasted will be pasted into the active layer, and I don't want to affect that. But according to Denia Dale 9549, that is completely unnecessary. Instead, just paste immediately and it'll be added into a new layer. And you can see here the difference. So before I created this layer, layer 83, and then I hit paste and it inserted it into that active layer. But when I pasted without creating a blank layer, it created this new layer called inserted image. So you can see the difference between the two methods right here. In fact, my whole workflow for copying and pasting was completely inefficient. So let's count the number of steps it takes me to copy and paste with the slow method. So first, let's hit the wrench icon, then hit add. Now we're going to hit copy. Now we're going to open up the layers menu. We're going to add this new layer that we're going to paste into, which is the unnecessary step I spoke about just now. Now go to the wrench icon again and hit paste. That's a total of 7 actions when really this can be done in 4. So swipe down with 3 fingers, hit copy, swipe down with 3 fingers again and hit paste. And if we look up here in the layers, we can see our newly pasted layer. All right guys, we made it to number 9, and this one's a doozy because it's related to a feature that I feel is insanely powerful but also strangely hidden. In my last video, I highlighted the most hidden feature ever called recolor. And for those that don't know, when you use recolor, you can target a selection with this crosshair. So let me pull it up and hit recolor and see this crosshair right here. So I can target, for example, this, let's just target black. And what that's doing is replacing anything in that target color with the active color up here. And so just to highlight this, I'm going to change this to pink so you can see just how dramatic this feature is. And I can adjust the tolerance by adjusting this flood. So the more it floods, the more blacks it goes into. Now to find this, I had to use the quick menu, which I've assigned to this button here, and it's right here, recolor, you can see there. Now I called it the most hidden feature ever because not all users use the quick menu, and even if you do, it's not there by default. We need to assign it to a button and only then can we access the feature. But what if I told you I was doing it all wrong, and there are actually 2 other ways to apply this? TYZZ9IC says, You can go to the third menu on the top row, the S-shaped one, and select Automatic Select and select the area you want to recolor. Okay, so I'm going to go up here to the Select menu and then I'm going to select Automatic, and I think the key for this is we need to have color fill selected. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit the area that I want to fill, and I'm not going to take it off the page. I'm just going to keep sliding it, and you can see here it is filling that area, but I don't think it's quite the same as color fill because it's quite heavy-handed, and it's not actually coloring, you know, that color throughout the whole image. It's just selecting this local area. So it is a faster method if you just want to color a certain area, but I wouldn't say it's a replacement for recolor. So maybe we're just stuck with that original clunky method. I mean, there couldn't possibly be another way to make recolor easier, could there? Herman says, there's yet another way to recolor, and that's by dropping the color swatch somewhere and then holding the pen somewhere, then drag sideways to adjust the amount of tolerance. Okay, so according to Herman, I just need to grab this and put it on here. Oh, no way, are you serious? Okay, that is pretty impressive. So you can see here, it's a lot more subtle in the way that it moves with the threshold. I think this is actually how recolor would behave. Let me try it on a black section, just to double check. So if I do that, yeah, there you go. That is exactly how recolor behaves, and it is way easier than using the quick menu and assigning it to recolor. You know, just grab the active color from up here and plop it in, and there you go. Thanks, Herman, and thank you guys for pointing out these mistakes. If there's any other cool Procreate tips you know, leave them in the comments. Who knows, you might find yourself featured in a sequel.